If you've been watching my last few videos, you may notice one small change to the deck. I've actually changed from 2 snow-covered islands and 2 regular to 3 and 1. Um, there is a reason for actually running 2 snow-covered and 2 basic islands, which is that there's it has to do with having the ability to interact with either cards that are affected by having a particular basic land type, or snow permanents that I might have stolen with Betelgeuse Shackles. But what I'm doing now is I'm actually singling out the one snow-covered island because I want to find out if I can get away with cutting it and still be good on having 3 lands for land tax, or if that's just too crazy. And the only way I can do that is just to identify the one island that I would cut and play a lot of games and find out when it comes up, would I be okay if this card were the one that I'm thinking of replacing it with? And the card I want to replace it with is Mox Opal. Now, I'm not necessarily on board with actually cutting the basic land for the Mox Opal. I actually would really prefer to stay at 29 lands, but I don't know what else to cut to fit the Mox Opal in the deck. And the more time passes, the more I feel like, again and again, I just have this feeling, and I tend to trust this kind of hunch, that Mox Opal belongs in this deck. I just feel like I need to put Mox Opal in this deck. There's situations where I want to search for it, where I would have 2 blue mana in play if Mox Opal were in the deck. Uh, and a perfect example is I go first turn Vault, first turn Vault into Power Stone. Second turn I cast Fabricate, play a land, and if I had Fabricated for Mox Opal, then I would play a land followed by Opal and have blue on tap for a counterspell, which is a lot different than having blue to colorless on tap for a counterspell. Having the crypt is great, but every once in a while, it might be better just to have another blue mana source. Plus, the fact that it fixes off color is pretty important. I mean, the way I see Mox Opal is, yes, sometimes it's not good, but when it is good, it's actually better than Mox Sapphire. A card that's better than one of the Power 9 and one of the best of the Power 9 is a card that I probably should play in my deck. So if you guys can tell me, I'm going to keep experimenting with this one snow-covered island and see if maybe that's the cut that I can make in order to fit Mox Opal into the deck. But if you guys can look out for any suggestion where you think it might be a better fit, I'd love to hear it. Anyway, I appreciate it if you got time for that. Anyway, I do have a game that I think you'll enjoy watching. It was this game against One Punch Hao. And it's interesting because my wife was sitting next to me and I told her I was going to do a risky keep. And I said, what do you think I should do? Should I keep it or not? And she said, I don't know. And I said, all right, well, then I'm doing it. And we'll see what happens. So this is the hand that I have. My opponent, I'm going first. And my opponent's playing a creature that doesn't produce blue. So right away, I feel like I can be a little more risky with the kind of hands that I keep. Just by nature of him not playing blue, he's already kind of like not playing the best color in the format. So it'll be kind of interesting. But also, if this hand draws mana, then it's really like positioned to do some really powerful and good things here. So, and since I'm going first, I have a little bit of time to look for it. So I decide I'm gonna get Underground Sea. That way, if I draw, no matter what mana I draw, I can cast them on a tutor, hopefully, and play a first turn map. And he leads off with Cabal Coffers, which, unless he's got Urborg, this is a big sign for me that his hand is probably not that great either. Or at least his mana development is certainly looking suspect. So I draw Stoic Rebuttal. That's fine. I've got nothing to do. And I was hoping he'd make a turn 2 play here. But now I find out why he kept the Cabal Coffers draw. It was because he just needed something to prime his bounce lands. So this kind of sucks for me because I was actually really hoping to do the Condescend for 0 play so that I could dig into land and then just hit my land drop and we're off to the races at that point. But on the other hand, he did have to discard for the turn and he throws away a Bazooka Bog. So I'm okay with that considering I was holding Dig and then I draw Treasure Cruise. So I'm really okay with him not having a Bazooka Bog that he's going to be able to replay or play at some point in the game and set me back. So he plays a Scry land And I'm like, please play a spell. And he does me a favor here and plays World Signet. So I have a target. I was hoping maybe even, he would not read too closely and fail to pay the Condescend for 0. If he actually failed to pay 0, his Signet gets countered, but he doesn't fall for that. Mystical Teachings and an Island are my cards, so I dumped the Teachings to the bottom of the deck, put the Island on top. And now I've got the mana to do good stuff, so we'll immediately Demonic Tutor and shuffle that Teachings back into the deck. Go get Crypt into Monolith into Power Stone, and I went from missing a land drop for 2 turns and condescending for 0 to having a relatively strong position in which I've got 6 mana to my opponent's 4. So he then plays Sprouting Thrinax, which was a good card at one time, but doesn't really, unless you're like comboing with it, I don't know, it's pretty sketchy in Commander. At any rate, I was happy to see it, because it doesn't produce mana, it doesn't destroy permanents, it doesn't affect the hand size, it doesn't really do much of anything in this situation. And with him having double Karoos, double bounce lands, and for those who aren't familiar, the original bounce lands was a cycle of 5, and the white one was called Karoo. And so the nickname that I give for all the bounce lands is just Karoos, just from being an older player. Most of the older players that I talk to also already know what I'm talking about when I say that, but for those of you who are curious, that's what that came from. Anyway, with him having double Karoo, I'm definitely fetching Strip Mine over, say, Ancient Tomb. And because he's already got a red-green Signet and a red-green bounce, I'm going to go ahead and just attack his black mana. Excuse me. Plus, I know that he has Cobalt Coffers in his hand, which he might want to produce black if he can get the Urborg out. But until he gets to Urborg, it's a dead draw too. So it looks like I might be able to keep him off black mana for a bit. He replays the Cobalt Coffer, so it seems like my play was pretty good. And then he goes for a Secure Tribe Elder. Now, if I let this resolve, he's just going to go ahead and fetch Swamp and fix his mana situation. And we can't have that, so I'm going to Stoic Rebuttal. The other thing here is because I have, and this is one of the things I love about playing Cruise and Dig, because I have these 2 cards in my hand, I can afford to make aggressive plays like counterspelling a Secure Tribe Elder, because it's a tempo play, and I can afford to play for tempo when I have cards that will let me play for cards in my hand. I can use my cards to generate the tempo advantage, since I know that I'm going to refill the card advantage, and I don't have to worry about it. That means I have both tempo and card advantage with this, the way that the game is developing, which is fantastic. So I make a play here. I feel like I want to hit a land drop, so like digging for specific cards is less value to me than just drawing 3 cards, hitting a land, and then hopefully saying go. And if I don't just say go, then I have the option to dig. Or what's interesting is I could actually transmute Muddle in order to power up dig. Transmute Muddle for something like Merchant Scroll, and then Merchant Scroll for something else, and kind of power up the dig over the course of a couple of turns while improving my hand. But we're going to start by just trying to hit our land drop. So I cruise. So I've got 6 cards in my graveyard, so it should only cost me 1 mana, but I'm actually going to protect that Strip Mine. Under no circumstances do I ever intend to remove a Strip Mine from a game of Commander, ever. Although my opponent might do it for me with a card like Bog, I see his Bog is gone. Otherwise, Strip Mine belongs in the graveyard outside of the rare circumstance where I have to delve it in order to save my bacon. So I'm not under any pressure, so that Strip Mine's staying right there. I would prefer to leave the Demonic Tutor for Yawgmoth's Will, but I'm definitely leaving the Strip. And look at that. Crucible rolled off the top, and it's backbreaking because now I just hit his other Karoo, and he's down to only 2 mana. He draws a card for the turn, he gives up. So because I played correctly and just played around not delving away my Strip Mine, despite the fact that it seemed like that might have been the play for the turn, I'm able to easily win that game. A game in which I mind you, cast Condescend for 0 after missing multiple land drops. Condescend for 0 and still won the game. Just shows how strong I think these delve cards actually are and why they belong in the deck. But hey, wouldn't I have loved to have had a Mox Diamond at any point in this game? I'm pretty sure I would have. So, again, I hope you enjoyed that game, but if you guys can give me some suggestions for where the Mox Diamond might fit into this deck, I'd definitely appreciate it. And that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. See you next time.